So what I'm doing here is changing this little fountain into a fish pond. So I'm just scooping all of the crap out of it. I'm just flushing it, giving it a good clean, pumping the water out until I get it nice and clean, give the walls a bit of a scrub, and then prepare it for the fish and turn the filter on. So what I'm doing at the moment is flushing this water. I've got the pit pump that's pumping the water out, and then I'm just flushing it with fresh water until I can get this water nice and clean, because this was very, very dirty. So the other thing to be aware of with these sorts of ponds is that every pond and every water feature does need to be re-waterproofed every now and then. So I got no idea how old this one is, but over time, if you do notice a leak in your water feature or pond, then it does need to be resealed. I have no reason to believe we have any trouble, but it is what it is. Time to give it all a good scrub. So I'm starting to get some good progress now on this pond. It's starting to clear up very nicely. There's the filter. So I'm almost ready for the next phase now, get the filter running. Okay, so now I've got the water ready. The first thing I'm gonna do is dechlorinate the water. So the way that I'll dechlorinate the water is, this is water ager, and this takes all the chlorine and stuff out of the water. So chuck a bit of that in. That'll work instantly, and that has to go in every time. You're right, mate.
Quit filming.
Well, stop making that sound and I'll quit filming you. Actually, I can just video you there. Go do it again. No, you don't want to do it? Okay, no worries. Got ya. So this has to go in the water whenever if you're just doing a little bit of a top up, you don't really need to worry about it. But if you're going to put a fair bit of water in, let's say at least 20%, you need to put a bit of this in. So you're supposed to do 1 ml per 40 litres, but just give it a squirt. You can't really overdose it. So a bit of a squirt of that. That'll make sure the water's okay. Now the next thing is Sydney tap water has very low KH. So what I'm going to do, add a little bit of KH, because the fish don't want to be in 0 KH. Also, I'm going to put a little bit of GH salt in. And this stuff just needs to go in according to whatever I test. So I'm just going to chuck a bit of this in. Like making a cake, you're supposed to be 1 teaspoon per 20 litres, but that'll be about right, and I'll test it. And over time, I'll be checking the pH, KH and GH. And if I see that the pH is going down or the KH is going down, I'll add more of this one. And then if I see the GH is going down, I'll add more of that one. But day to day, I wouldn't really worry about these. Day to day, you can just give it a bit of a top up. And if you're doing a water change, meaning you're taking water out, then you're going to put that back in. Now, the water's prepared now because that will all occur instantly. So now I can just let these little test fish go. Now I say test fish, but there's no reason why they won't be going well. So they've been floating on top for a while just to make sure that the temperature's the same. And then we'll just open that up with a one-handed willy here. So now I'm just going to release the fishies in, and they will be totally fine. Now with the fish, it's really important we don't add any more fish for probably at least a month, a couple of weeks minimum, because what we want now is the good bacteria establishing the filter. And that's why it's really important that when we clean the filter, we never want to clean it in water from the tap, because water from the tap can contain chlorine, and the chlorine can kill the good bacteria, but we want the good bacteria in the filter to break down the waste from the fish. Okay, so now I've got the pump on. If you want it dead silent, then this will make no sound, and this will be 100% functional. Now, if you want your Mr. Tap to run, then if you put your hand in, there's a tap here at the bottom. See this blue tap at the bottom? Now, if I turn the blue tap, then this one turns off and that one turns on. Now, if that's a bit loud for you, then you can actually just shut this tap a little bit, and then some will go here and some will go there. Now, the fish don't care. If you have that on or that on, the fish don't care. So if you want that look, you can. The blue tap at the bottom, we can turn it off, which means it comes here, or we can turn it on, so it goes here, or we can do a little bit of both. So we can have it set however we want. And this one here shoots a little bit of water out the side here, and it shoots a little bit of water out the top. So you can just play with that according to the sound you don't mind it making, and the effect that you want. So next time I come, I'll show you how to clean the filter. But cleaning the filter is very basic. We just undo those, we just got to take this out. Then we just undo those clips, and inside it is some sponge. Now, the sponge and the biological media must be cleaned in water that you've taken out of the pond, because that water will be treated. And then you give it a bit of a clean, just wringing it in water that you've taken out of here. Then you throw that water away. Then you put the sponge back, and then you close it back up again, and that's all there is. Now, see that little light there? That light means that the UV sterilizer is working. So this unit has biological, mechanical, and UV sterilizer. So there's a globe inside this filter, and this globe, it's called a UVC globe, and it will kill the algae. So it should help to keep this water nice and clear. And if you notice the water going a little bit green, we need to check on what's going on with that UV, because usually the UVs are good for about 12 to 18 months, but then over time, the intensity and spectrum of the tube does actually reduce, and we do need to change the tube inside the unit. Now, inside the unit's also a pump, so probably about once a year or so, we probably want to give that pump a clean. We pull the pump apart, clean the impeller, clean the housing, and put it all back together again. So in the meantime, there's some happy fish in there somewhere. Do you see the fish buds? There they are. It's good not to feed for the first 2 days. Now, fish keeping is 50% water quality, which I can test, and 50% food quality. So it's really important to feed good quality food. This is very high quality food. It's set at the absorption rate of the fish, so you don't need to feed much. I tend to feed the fish about a few times a week. And then what you really want to be doing is looking at the belly of the fish over time. So let's say that we are looking at your fish and you're looking down on them and you see where the gills are. If the body goes in from the gills, that means they're too thin. If they've got a big fat belly, that means they're too fat. And then you just alter the amount you're feeding slightly, and then you wait a month or so to see if that's made an impact. And what we don't want to do is overfeed. So we're just putting a tiny little bit of, few little pellets in, and we want to see the fish eat it straight away. And if they don't eat it straight away, don't feed the fish for a while. Now, if we get issues with birds, there's a few things we can do. A lot of the time, if you have issues with birds, it's usually due to territorial birds. So if we upset that bird, often that means that we've solved the problem, but each pond is its own. So we can either get a balcony guard, and that plugs into the power point and emits a frequency that the birds hate, and the feedback on them has been quite good, and it's got a little sensor light on it. So when the bird breaks the sensor, then the high-pitched sound will turn on. The rest of your animals and yourself, you won't even hear it. Okay, so when you're servicing this pond, you need to top it up with the hose. It's also good just to have a fish net, and when you see a bit of junk in the pond, especially after a windy day, just go and get a fish net, just catch out any crap, because we don't really want that decomposing in the water. Now, if you've got a scrubber like this, that's good for giving the sides a bit of a scrub, just to make it look nicer. The fish don't care whether you do that or not. And then we've got some decorations in there, mainly just to give the fish somewhere to hide in the event of birds. And birds will be an issue that we need to, we might have to cross that bridge when we come to it. So at the moment, I've just put the ornaments a little bit to try to hide the electrical pipes. And over time, these ornaments are going to look a bit yucky. When you notice them looking a bit yucky, you get them out and put them in the sun for a day, then switch them over, leave them in the sun for a day, hit them with a hose, and then you'll be surprised how well the sun will bleach up the algae and make it look good. And then when it comes to water changes, we want to at least once a month get a bit of water out of here. Now, the other thing that would be a very good idea is if you had a bucket, get your gardener to have a bucket, and then when you're watering these plants, just grab a bucket, grab a bit of water out of here, because this water will end up being quite high in nutrients, which are very good for your plants. And if you're regularly pulling a bit of water out to water these plants, then that means there's water regularly coming out of the pond. Because what we don't want is to never take water out of the pond, otherwise things accumulate in the water and eventually the water quality will decrease. So if we're doing regular water changes, then your water will stay fresh. But we don't really want to be changing more than about a third. Let's say a half is absolute maximum, because we don't want to shock the fish. We don't want to drain it all the way down and then fill it up again and then have the water quite different that you're putting into what the fish are used to. Otherwise you can actually make the fish sick. So it's all happening, yeah, just shine it in there so you can see what's going on. Water's nice and clear. UV sterilizer's on. Where are our fishies? Is that them there? Oh, there they are. Hello, fishy.
There's one, and then there's another one there. There's one, and then there's one.
Beautiful.